Update.
An update, and I was like,
Did all my
man,
updates today.
well, I hate doing them on broadcast days. I got to do it.
I know,
I usually do
but I said
updates on
no
Mondays,
last week, and
right? I usually do updates on
oh yeah,
Mondays or Tuesdays.
yes,
Usually is what I do, and then I get the whole week
at
to
the
play with
church
it.
you have all week. Yeah,
So we'll see. Maybe Wesley was saying
yeah.
it was pretty choppy again. If it doesn't work this time, we'll be done for the night. We're not gonna. Though that's probably because I need to update my system, guys. I'm really sorry.
Just try to get in the bunker. But yeah,
Well, if I can't broadcast, I won't be able to broadcast there either. So because all of that. So
mm.
try. I'm just gonna ask him to try one more time. Try
It
one
says we're on air.
more
Woohoo!
time. There we go. Hopefully that fixes it. We got no viewers. I figured that the Book of Suck had found your face in the algorithm, and they were like, no, we banned him. He's not allowed to broadcast.
Bring it. Yeah, probably.
Send to the robots.
You'd remember to go through YouTube and delete these.
Delete what?
Part 2.
Oh yeah. The little reblups. So
How long is it?
All right, Internet Land. We're gonna try for part 2 here. Wrap up do a little recap. Little. Maybe this will be the. Maybe we should start doing this. Maybe this should be a thing. Like we do like a long form version and then like a quick, like 10-minute version that would inspire people to go watch the longer video if they wanted more information or something like that. Anyway, so ultimately, the other thing that we didn't talk about. I wanted to go back to Russia. I don't want to go
Book
back
5?
to Russia. Yeah, I don't know if we're ever going to get there or not. We're just happy ending. Anyway, so did you see them announce that they're going to be doing public executions in the streets for
In Portland?
in Russia. In public
in Russia.
Yeah. I'm sure the activists in Portland would do public executions in the street as well.
Sounds like HA's going to start doing them.
Who?
Might support that. HA.
Who's HA?
The 1%er that you mentioned earlier.
Oh, got it. Okay. But no, so that's a big deal. I don't know, even as mamby-pamby as NATO is, and you know that I don't have a great love for Dan Crenshaw anymore. You know, he put out a tweet this week that was basically like, wasn't NATO conceived to keep Russia from invading places? You know, I'm like, that's a valid point there, Dan. You and I don't agree on much these days, you rhino. But the fact of the matter is, like,
I wouldn't call him a rhino. You and I definitely disagree on Crenshaw. But
yeah, no, I think he's hot garbage.
I am a Crenshaw fan.
I was a dynamic Crenshaw fan when you weren't a dynamic Crenshaw fan, and I loved his book, and I think
he's the real deal.
I think he's
the real deal, and he might have a couple of screws that are quarter loose, but I'll always back a proven combat veteran that's 99% right.
Well, I don't think he's 99% right. I think he's 3% right. He's voting for red flag laws, and I think he has drank the DC Kool-Aid, and he has 100% abandoned us. He is a tough looking rhino. Now, I love his eye patch. I mean, I don't love that he has to have an eye patch, but he's you know, I don't know, man. I think that everything that he's been doing, I think he's war hawking alongside the Dems right now. But anyway, I don't know. Yeah, we can disagree. It's cool, but
maybe he's just getting ready to do some righteous movements and pull out some knives, and who knows.
Maybe he's going to go full terminalist. I don't know, but
I support that, by the way.
I would too. I wouldn't be sad. I wouldn't shed.
If anybody's asking,
I wouldn't shed a tear for him. But no. Ultimately, man, I think that that public executions in the streets are going to. I don't even know that.
I think it's not going to have the effect he wants.
I don't think that even as mamby-pamby as NATO is, and they are, I don't think they will stand by and watch that. I don't think they're going to stand by. I don't think they're not going to allow the world to watch them watch that. You know what I'm saying?
It makes things a little more complicated for us because, if a country as a whole is coming from a united front of one thing and they're an axis of evil, that is one thing. It's never truly ever been that way. But
Right.
if it looks like, it's a dictator in a small percentage of the company or the country, right, that's doing this, that's a lot more difficult. That's a difficult action to wage.
I don't think it's a small
Um,
percentage of the country. I think that's media. I think that's media bias. I think I've been hearing all week, oh, the
no, what you're
oligarchs are
saying
turning.
is that a small percentage of the country actually wants to do what Putin is doing. There's a small percentage of the country that is actually supporting him, and the rest of the country is really just being ruled over and does not support what's happening.
No, I
That's what
see
you're
it, and that,
saying.
and I, yeah. So no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I
Oh, let
think
me
the
hear it.
vast majority of Russia is behind him. We've
Is
been
behind
hearing
him. Okay.
in the U.S. media all week that, oh, the
So it's more
oligarchs are
like in
turning
our
on him.
country where people were supporting people without masks being put into jails and prisons and camps, and we're under the delusion that the majority of our country actually thinks that way simply because the majority of Portland and Oregon,
There you
New
go.
York, Seattle think that way, which is not the majority of the country, despite what they think.
Well, okay. Sarcasm aside, and I appreciate that. That's a great way of looking at it.
I think
But
there's some parallels, but
well, no, there are some parallels. But I think that the mainstream media and even even the outlying media that I pay attention to has been saying all week, oh, the oligarchs are turning against Putin. The people are not behind him. There's about to be an uprising. I think that
you're
is
not so sure.
absolutely 100% false.
Propaganda.
Because it's propaganda that is supposed to
Okay.
help draw us in and justify our engagement.
Okay.
And because what I'm hearing out of Russia,
That's a scenario I can believe.
yeah, what I'm hearing out of Russia right now is they've never been behind Putin better. They've never been behind him more. The people of
Mm,
Russia are like, we want our nation back.
right.
We want these rogue states to be brought to heel.
USSR is
We
not
want
even
to
big
be
enough.
right. We want our world back.
Pre
And
1000 AD map
yeah.
lines.
Yeah, this is back to imperial Russia stuff.
Yes.
And like back to that statement that we talked about at the beginning of the broadcast, what good is a world if there's no Russia in it, and
We're hearing
that's the
Russians
thing.
say that.
Yeah, that's the thing that's echoing in Russia right now. So
Mm.
listen, when they say that, when you hear people talking about, oh, they're not really behind Putin and they really wish they could be free of him, I don't believe a word of it. I don't believe a word of it. I
Mm.
think that they're Russians, they're Eastern Europeans. They want a strong,
Well, they want
boisterous
strength.
leader.
That's
They
for
want
sure. And
strength. They
just
want
like
somebody who's
the
going to kick
Germanic
ass and
people
take names.
supported Hitler
Right.
because he was strong, they will get behind strength that benefits them without looking too close at the fringe details
Right.
because strong people like that are imperfect.
Well, and
Um,
you got to think about what drew the German people to Hitler also was Germany their back had been broken by the Treaty of
there's
Versailles.
salvation. Yeah.
They were absolutely their dollar or their franc was worth nothing.
If you want to
Um,
blame someone for the Germans, blame the French.
blame the French. Blame the French. Well, I like to blame the French as often as I
I
can.
like blaming
But
French anyway, but they were really responsible. Germany was down and getting kicked in the gutter, and the whole world was looking at the situation, essentially saying, "Look, we beat up on them. We've all taken our licks and had our turn.
right,
Let's, let's let them be a country and a people again."
right,
And the French did this. Oh no, we are the persecuted party, and we
right.
will decide when it is enough.
The oppressed always
And they
becomes the
paid for it.
oppressor.
And boy, did they pay for it.
They paid for it. They did. And so you look at so then look at what happened in Russia this week.
Okay, what happened?
Their ruble, as of
Killed.
this
Yeah.
week, is worth less than a penny, less than a U.S. penny. We
And I don't know.
crushed.
Can we look up what would it have been? Yeah, a month ago or something, right?
Yeah,
What was
maybe.
the somebody can do it.
I'm sure they weren't. I'm sure they
Just
weren't.
so we get context of what exactly are we talking about here.
Yeah.
I could try to do it.
Yeah, try to do that. That'd be great. But I will, so if we break their back financially, we punish the people for Putin's idiocies and lunacies. They're gonna align lockstep behind him. They have no choice but to buy what he's selling. And so you look at it, and I was listening to a critique this morning from a family member talking about, well, we're still buying oil, and we are still buying oil. We're buying $22 million worth of oil a day.
Thank you, Democrats.
From Russia. Thank you, Democrats. That's exactly right. We could have been buying it from Alaska, and instead we've allowed the embargo of Alaska to continue. And what's really sad
Thank you,
is
Canada.
Yeah, thank you, Canada. So what's really sad though is, okay, just 1 second. So what's really sad though is that if people don't peel that back a little bit, okay, if they don't peel that back and go, oh, we're still buying oil. If we don't buy it from Russia, Russia will sell it to other people. They will mark it up and sell it to us. We'll still be buying Russian oil. And right now we're sending $326 million a day in foreign aid to Ukraine. We're buying $22 million a day worth of oil from Russia. Yes, Biden is currently financing both sides of the war.
Like a true liberal does.
Like a true leftist does, yes. So tell me about the ruble.
All right, so we're going to look at a 5-year chart. And I can't share my screen very well. I could, but I'm not going to. The peak that I can see in my rough looking is February 16th of 2018. One Russian ruble was worth 1.8 cents of our money. Now the plummet is there. That's not to in any way say, as of right now, today, one Russian ruble
Right.
is worth exactly 1 penny. So half.
Okay.
It's significant.
It is significant. Sure.
It's a and the Brock is, the drop in the chart is instant.
Right.
So, but just prior to all this, if we just go back a couple of months here, let's look at August. 1 ruble was worth 0.14, so 1.4 cents. And it doesn't. The blips are not big. The blips are 1/10 of a cent. So
okay.
we've never had a 1-for-1.
So
that's not
even
a true comparison.
even the dramatic statement of we've crushed the ruble below a penny, like that's okay.
Here's an
so
update:
that's
0.0081. So that's less than a penny now. It's worth 0.8 of a penny.
Okay.
And no matter how we look at it, that is less than
30,
half.
That's a 30% drop
from just a couple of minutes ago. Yeah, it's actively dropping. Watching it
actively dropping. You're watching it drop. Oh boy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is Google, so
there you go.
Anyway, so all that to say, we're not wrong, but the dollar to ruble is strong anyway.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's partly why Russia's been leaning on OPEC for years to stop taking the dollar. They
want the ruble to be the measure, right? But since we got rid of our gold standard,
we are on
the
an oil
dollar
standard.
is not the gold standard, we're screwed.
That's right. That's exactly right. Listen, the whole thing, the entire game, all of the experiment will be over tomorrow if OPEC decides to stop taking the dollar to buy oil. Yeah. That's why.
We will reset to the gold standard. I hope you have gold.
Oh, buddy, no kidding. That is why canceling the Keystone XL pipeline was so absolutely fundamentally damning for for I get it.
There are a lot of people that say it's treasonous.
Yeah,
I would go that far to agree.
I would. Yeah, I would be borderline. Yeah, I'll be borderline. I would go with that.
That was a treasonous move.
I get that there is some ecological things that need to be addressed. I get that there are some native tribal land stuff that needs to be addressed. Okay,
Canada sucks at pulling stuff out of the ground cleanly.
Oh,
despite
gosh,
what
yes, man.
people think, Canada's really dirty.
Their sand oil
Yeah.
is like it's just gross, man.
Ah,
There are ways to do it. There are ways to do it well. There are ways to do it without stealing people's land. There are
Alaska does it
ways
well.
to do it.
Alaska
Huh?
does it really well.
Alaska
We
does it
find
right.
new reserves nearly every day, every time we're given an opportunity to do it.
That's right.
It's my contention that Alaska should just give the big FU to the feds and do it anyway.
I
I'm
think it's
sick and tired of
absolutely
being
true.
told.
I think it's
And if
absolutely
we
true.
have to leave the union to do it, I support it.
I would not. Well, other than leaving especially right now
Especially right now.
in the.
Maybe we won't get bombed first.
Oh, that's a good point, I suppose. Or maybe you get invaded, or maybe you get
Eh,
invaded, like
I don't
right
know.
now,
I don't
But
know.
I mean, I think there are some politics stuff, geopolitical stuff that we
Done.
need to pay close attention to for sure. But ultimately, if you took Russia out of the equation, it's very hard to do right now. It takes a lot of fictional thinking to take Russia out of the equation right now. But if Russia were not a part of the equation,
Uh-huh.
I don't understand why Alaska hasn't already seceded. It is illegal for the federal government to own land, and they own land. They own more land than the people of Alaska in
80,
Alaska.
80% of
Uh,
the land, I believe, is the last 80, roughly 80, 82%.
and
And
if you
about
don't think
half of that
that's
was supposed to be given to us as statehood, and they just haven't.
and they just didn't. Yeah, they just
It's
forgot
only
for
been
some reason.
almost 70 years.
Yeah, it's only been 70 years. No big deal. So I mean, I would just say I don't understand why Alaska hasn't already seceded from the union. I would say that you have a better
Because we're
case of
strong
secession.
Americans. There's a lot of very patriotic Americans in Alaska.
I
A lot of
guess that's
military
good.
veterans.
That's good. I suppose that's good. That's good. No, that's not. No, there's no. I suppose that's good. That is a good thing, and I appreciate that. But I think that there's a stronger case for Alaska to secede than for Texas.
Oh, absolutely.
And Texas is
Yeah,
currently the only one that like legally can, except for the
that's
fact
not true.
that Alaska could claim breach of contract.
We have a couple ways to do it. We kept the same clause that Texas has, and they're not the only state. Montana, as well, has the same clause. Texas says they're the only state. I don't think that's true at all. Texas says a lot of things that are not very true,
Well, I
like
think Matthew
like that they're
McConaughey
really
lives there.
big and blah blah blah. But it takes 2.5 Texases to make up one Alaska, or that they just have
Hey
really really
man,
free gun laws, and they
they're
don't
they're
really.
big compared to Connecticut. Come on, they're big compared to Rhode Island. Like
They're not even a lot bigger than California.
they're
California's a
they're
big state.
they're big compared to Mississippi.
I suppose Mississippi's got better gun laws.
I don't think so. I don't know. Hey, Texas just passed a deal that you can own it. You can buy a suppressor as long as it's Texas made, and tell the ATF to stick it. So like, I
Well,
like
I
that
support
stuff.
those laws. And the reality is, in every 50 state, you can do that. But it's
Get
more
ready for a
difficult in
fight.
some than others.
They'll shoot your
Yeah.
dog. You better
Montana
not. You
did that
better not
a
have a
long
dog.
time ago.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. Montana was the first one to do it, I believe. As crazy as it is in Canada, you can buy a can right off the shelf up there
You're kidding.
because it's hearing protection.
Oh,
Yeah. No, there's nothing restricted about them in Canada.
you can't. But
You have a hard
you
time
can't
getting
buy
the
the
gun to
rifle.
put them on,
Yeah, I was gonna say you
but
can't buy the rifle to put it on.
yeah, they're into bolt action, long guns for hunting or whatever. It's not hard in Canada to get guns. Just a big, unless you were in a freedom convoy, then you're never going to buy a gun again, because you do have to seek permission from the government to make your gun purchase in Canada and register them. Although, as we know, the ATF has been illegally registering really not our guns. They've just been, that's why it's legal. They haven't been registering our guns. They've been registering us.
They've been registering us. Yes, if you filled out a 4473 in the last decade, you are on a
If you've ever
list.
done an electronic one, you're
No,
definitely in the new
no, they
database. If
proved
you did
last.
one where they called in to do the background over the phone, which that's a big Oregon thing too.
Yeah,
Not every state
big
does it
organ.
the same way.
Yeah, big organ thing.
Um, there's different processes in
Sure.
different states, but yeah, Oregon and a couple other states do some extra steps that are not required. But
Right.
we support state rights, the right of a state to do things like that.
Sure, of course.
We'll fight it at the state level.
Sure.
what we oppose is the federal government doing things that are outside of the Constitution and outside of
Absolutely.
their mandate to do.
Absolutely. And I think that on a prepper level, what we're which is what we gather and talk about. I think on a prepper level, I think you have to prepare for it to get worse, not better. Like it's not get I
Nothing's
watch
getting
the
better
channels.
soon.
I watch the channels. I like Guns and Gadgets. I like. I think Jared is very intelligent. He's a former law enforcement officer. He battles chronic pain from a back injury from his time in
On the
service
job
for
injury. Yeah.
law enforcement. I watch Johnny B. I watch a couple of I watch ARFCOM news. The guys are smart. They're paying really close attention. They're getting behind real advocacy groups that are doing things, not the NRA garbage pile that it is.
No real gun
And
owners support
I
the
was
gun array.
but I'll just tell you, and they put out a lot of hopeful shows. They're like, "Hey, we got this, or we're winning that, or this state's going to constitutional carry." Don't get wrapped up in the positive. It's not getting better. It's getting worse, and it's getting worse rapidly. Nationally, there are states that are getting
Quietly,
better.
rapidly, yeah.
Quietly, rapidly. I mean, the fact that if you filled out a 4473 in the last 10 years, you're on record. Tens of millions of purchases. It was absolutely revealed that
It's
you have
against
been.
our Constitution.
It's
It's against
against
the
our
law.
Constitution. Yes, 100%. They just
They don't
run it
care.
like they always do. They always do this. Like they
Yeah.
will take whatever they want because none of them are ever held accountable. And that's why we
Well,
have to prepare for bad times because there's
there's this.
currently no end to this.
No, it's not no one in sight, which is actually it brings a lot of parallels to a certain movement of religion that you and I have some participation in, and they're kind of running things the exact same way.
Are you
In
talking about
that,
the F word? Are you talking about
I
the
don't,
F word?
yeah.
Okay. The F word.
So they've monumentally changed our organizational structure. Um, every religious entity is a corporation, right? So we all have corporate bylaws and rules and how things are supposed to be run. And we try to do it biblical.
Right.
Hopefully, you're in a movement that does it because there is legal ways to do things the right way. And we have a newly elected leader. The fairness of the election has been challenged, but uh, basically, we've completely reorganized everything about how we license and administrate the administrative functions
Yep.
of our movement.
Yep.
And a couple of us screamed that this is not kosher with our bylaws, and because they weren't, and so now they're going to 2 years later change the bylaws to make legal what they have done. And so that's what we're talking about with the federal government,
100%.
and with liberals, which I think is the problem with the movement. We've been infected by liberals, and so they do the exact same things.
Yep.
They have the same processes of I can do whatever I want because I'm in charge and I have power. How I got there doesn't matter.
Right.
I'm in charge now,
Right.
and this is what I want to have happen. And it's very dictatorish. And
Very
then we'll change the rules
executive
later
order stuff. Yeah.
to match what I've done.
Yeah.
And that's what our movement's doing. Um,
Well, they're
it is what it is.
taking cues from the federal government. They're
Because we're
taking
full of
cues.
liberals, they're acting the same way liberals do in the government, which makes me just as sick with them. A lot of lukewarm. We're also being taken over by the pacifist movement, which I'm watching infect
100%.
us.
Well, it's because
It's sad.
we keep pushing pastors through George Fox seminaries, and
That will kill it. That will
and
create.
that's
Yeah,
gonna kill a denomination. There's no question about it. There's no, or a movement. I know we don't.
a movement.
Our particular flavor doesn't like to be referred to as a denomination, but if it looks like a duck and poops like a duck, anyway.
They're going to poop an awful lot like communism.
Yeah, there's that too. Oh, well, I mean, it's pure socialism now because they, so if you guys want to watch the way a government or society devolves, just start watching the F word. Start watching the particular brand of churches that we hang out in.
It's how a nation once great and miraculous on the Billy Graham level is going to dissolve.
Falls on its face because what they've done now is they've divided up and they've divided up the districts again. So let's call them states, okay? And
There you
and
Redistrict.
so The western districts have the most churches. So when they give their tithe, that means they have the biggest budget.
Money
Okay.
speaks,
Money speaks.
and we
All
like
right.
racism.
Now,
So we're
now
going to
what?
segregate our churches.
So we're going to segregate our churches. That's right. Right. You know, so then what happened was these districts out here that were the old districts were very, very generous toward because the budget was directly attached to how many churches and what they were giving, right? So down in the southeast, there's not a lot of F-word churches, right? And so their budget was very meager. And so the Pacific Northwest, or the Northwest District, the Pacific Northwest District, and California, they were very generous toward those districts that didn't have enough resources. Okay, now what they've done is they've scrubbed it all, redistricted, so they've basically drawn all the state lines all over again, and each district gets the same amount of money. Well, that doesn't make any sense at all. That is pure, unadulterated socialism, and you're going to watch the dissolve of a nation fast forward attached to the
movement.
the dissolve of a movement or the dissolve of a denomination of churches, and it's
Except
going
they
to
never
be
really go away. They just they
rebrand.
dwindle down into nothing, rebrand.
They rebrand.
The true patriots leave. They go to another country, another state. Yeah. Anyway, I just a lot of parallels, and here's the thing: when you start to see a lot of parallels, you have to look at, well, what are the core beliefs and structures of those who are in charge, and it's just an indicator of similar belief structures.
Sure.
So they operate the same way, and
Or
they have had the same brainwashing.
Or the illusion of similar belief structures, right? Like, you know, so you create a system where everybody believes that that's what they believe, except that's not what the majority actually believe. You were referencing it earlier, right? You were talking about, you know, in the context of Russia, you know, there's not. So even just the illusion of, you know, like take an issue like homosexuality, where we absolutely believe people
Or
should be cared for.
transgenderism. I actually like that one. That's something I've seen
People
within our leaders.
We believe and affirm in unity that all people should be loved and cared for, that all people should have access to the gospel, that no one should be denied access to the gospel, and no one should be treated differently in the context of people coming to the gospel. But when you do come to the gospel, you are called to be repentant. You're called to walk outside of your sin. You're called to step. I was born greedy. I was born very, very selfish. That's how I was born. And then when I came to Jesus, I was called to become generous and to become to become selfless, not selfish, right? And so there are folks that were, you know, maybe potentially born a different way as far as sexuality goes. Now, so we could bicker that all day long, okay? But there's been a purveying, well, you know, we're really kind of split 50-50. We better not talk about that. I don't think we are. I just think that there's a percentage that are very, very vocal. And as Dave Chappelle learned, do not anger the alphabet people.
Yes, but when the alphabet people make their way into leadership, we're done. And that's where we're at.
And that's where we're at. We're knocking on the door, for sure.
Arguably, we're there.
Yeah, I think arguably we're there. So there you go. You guys got a breakdown of like church politics.
I've been here longer than most of you.
Yeah, exactly. Good. Kudos to you who hung out for this conversation. But I do think it's relevant. Okay, so I'm not just trying to contrive a tie-in. This is about the dissolving of a society. This is about the fact that we are on a razor's edge of whether or not we can exist in our current form anymore. And I think taking a look at a church is a really great microcosm of what's happening in our nation. It just happens faster, and it happens a little bit more painfully in the realm of like the kingdom and spirituality, those kinds of things. Okay, so you look at not more painfully, because when the nation dissolves and falls apart,
I was going to say
there will be violent. There will be violent pain. There will be a painfully. I think it's more painful to watch the church of God, to watch God's kingdom.
We care more about
it is. Because first I'm a citizen of a king and a kingdom, and then I'm also a citizen of the country that he chose for me to be born into. I am grateful for both citizenships. I
I
am
know
a
where my
dual citizen.
lines
Yeah,
are, but
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. I mean, he called me to be a citizen of this country. Like he called. That's because he gave it to me.
Where
He
one
put me here.
conflicts, we
Yeah.
will, we will, you know,
Always defer to the first or
to the
to the
kingdom
primary. To the primary.
of correct, yeah, the forever places. Um, with that said, I don't see misalignment here. So that's the argument that's infected us, and that I'm a member of one kingdom and not the country that I live in, and it doesn't work that way. If you want it to work that way, you need to leave.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Feel free.
feel
Feel
free.
free.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they like citizens. They like good citizens in Canada. The you know the
Feel free to go there.
the sovereign nation of England owned by the monarchy still.
Feel free to go there.
Feel free to go there. They will
That's
accept you
fine.
with open arms,
Yep. Absolutely.
unless you have
Absolutely.
a DUI or something like that,
Right. Any kind
or
of criminal
ever sent
record.
money to the truckers. So good luck with that one. Of
There you go. There.
course,
That's
if
right.
you did that, you wouldn't be leaving to go to Canada.
Probably not. No.
On that note, our
On that note,
guys are sitting awfully close and getting joined up and getting to be an awful lot of trucks in that convoy. They've been met
we
with a couple of spur convoys coming from different states and different directions, and it's a large movement, and it's actively being suppressed. And I'm convinced that it's one of the reasons that I'm on another 30-day from Facebook. We gave
100%
a warning last week that comms may go silent
on the
when the
7th.
convoy reaches DC.
That's right.
Here
That's
it
right.
comes.
Here it
So we'll
comes.
see what happens.
They will. Well, because we saw Canada do it, and I don't think that this administration in Washington will wait nearly as long as Trudeau did to show his true colors.
No.
They will call it an insurrection, and all of those people will be branded traitors. They will
They
all be
will be.
branded
Their bank
terrorists.
accounts will be seized.
I
Anybody
hope
who
they were
gave them
smart enough
money,
to liquidate before they went. I hope they
if
were
you've
smart enough.
given them money or are supporting or are part of that, I highly suggest you get your money out of your bank. You're the one person I support making a run on the bank.
That's right. That's a good point. It's a very good point.
And don't keep it
Yeah.
on you because they're going to take it.
No, you
You're
better
going to be
have
arrested and everything you have is going to be taken.
put it with
So
somebody you
safeguard it well.
trust. Put it with
Right.
somebody you trust. And I will
But
say
if you
this.
feel that strongly to go, go.
Listen, I'm gonna jump on this, and I'm gonna be a little cryptic here because I cannot, because of pastor confidentiality, I can't get in it. I will say that
Okay.
I have a dear friend walking through one of the most horrific emergencies that you could ever possibly imagine. Awful. Some of you may have seen, if you follow me on Facebook, you saw me ask for prayer for a friend who's been falsely accused, and there's this, and that's as far as I'm going to go down the story. But I'm going to tell you that one of the things that my friends have learned, okay, is how important it is to be able to access your funds. I watched them desperately clamor to access an old bank account. I watched them desperately clamor to try to get access to enough funds to
It's a higher defense.
that, but first to even just be able to step outside of a jail cell. And I will, it has been one of the most horrific. I have like a headache, like right behind my left eye, because I have shed
not
so
going
many
away for a
tears for
while.
them this week. And and it's not going away. It's not going away anytime soon. We are desperately praying for them to find the right attorney. We're desperately finding, and it is horrific what they're walking through. And I get it. There's stuff that people walk through that you go, look, you earned that. Like, you bought and paid for that. You earned those horrific consequences. We're sorry for you. Gosh, that's terrible. But this is not that. This is not that. This is one of those moments where you are actively watching a broken judicial system tear apart an innocent person. Okay. And it just goes to show that if you're wealthy, you can make a lot of things happen. And if you are middle class or below, you can be screwed so quickly, because I'll tell you right now,
Because you have a lot to lose.
If you're middle class and you can afford a house payment and 2 car payments, you probably make too much money to get a public defender, but you don't have enough money to even dream about getting a
A good lawyer.
you always hear people's
A good
Miranda
defense.
rights. You hear about it. So you could probably all recite your Miranda rights because you've seen it enough on
At least the first two lines. Yeah.
special victims unit, whatever show you like. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you. Well, guess who determines
believe
whether
that.
you can afford one? You don't
Prosecutor.
determine whether you can afford an attorney. Absolutely, you do not. There is a form you will fill out. They will check your finances. They will look at your assets and go, no, you can afford it.
Which you just told them all where they were
That's right.
in
That's
their form.
exactly right.
That you
That's
better
exactly
fill
right.
out honestly, or it's a federal crime.
It's federal crime because you're lying to a court. Guys, the deck is stacked. It's bad.
It is.
It's bad.
Yeah. You get to that
And
point.
yeah.
You know where I stand. Don't get to that point. You do not let them take
get
you.
to that.
There is no such
point.
thing as a fair trial in this country anymore.
And that just goes back to kind of what we talked about last week about like getting out of Western states, like getting out of these states that are grossly leftist. See, you almost got me saying it.
Like God sorting them out.
Yeah. Okay. These states that
One crowd will be okay. The other crowd, they're going where they go.
That will prosecute and persecute first and ask constitutional questions later.
They won't just prosecute and persecute. They will decimate you.
They will decimate you.
They will lock your bank accounts, take your assets, take your children, liquidate your house, seize everything.
100%.
You will have nothing left.
Nothing. It is
You should
horrific.
fight as if you're losing your life because you are.
Yep. So I would ultimately, if you're watching this,
they're not going to get a multi-million-dollar team to come.
Ricky Schroeder and the MyPillow guy are not coming to your rescue. They're not. Because you're not going to make it. My friend is not going to make it onto Fox News, and if he does, he'll make it onto Fox News and be vilified. He'll be demonized.
They'll lie.
And they'll lie. Just
like they did to Eddie Gallagher.
Yeah.
And Kyle Rittenhouse. I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
Guys that have been proven to be true, proven that the allegations were false. Time and time again, it comes out that the prosecution, the media, they all lied.
Did you see that Kilo Romeo is going after Biden?
Yeah, I love it.
I love it. He'll lose because it's a freedom of speech issue, but I love that he's trying.
Sue everyone. That's the game they play.
That's the game they play. Get them all, sue them all, and then see what sticks to the wall. I mean, you look at Nicholas Sandman. Yeah. He walked away with lots.
Might be a billionaire.
Might be.
He's certainly a gazillionaire. Hundreds of millions, multiple hundreds of millions.
Yeah, buddy.
And
multiple
you know what?
Of millions.
It makes no sense. It's a broken system, but as the only system we have right now to fight outside of physical violence.
And if here's
the thing, they are committing physical violence to you.
That's right.
So
if 2 children can slap these legacy media companies in the face and potentially hold people accountable that have never been held accountable before,
we can all do it.
There might be a tiny glimmer of hope. There might be. Because here's the deal. Money talks and you know what walks, and the fact of the matter is CNN is dying. When
they're in the death throes.
Most
of their pedophiles have been brought out.
They're in the death throes. They're gonna either rebrand or they're gonna sell or something to somebody to try to keep them alive. What you watch, Bloomberg will acquire them because he's got his own news network too. He'll acquire them so that he can have a really rocking propaganda source. They'll rebrand. They'll get a bunch of their audience back by telling the same exact lies. But I will say this, and actually, you watch. I'm just making a prediction. This is not prophecy. This is not thus saith the Lord. I think that it might happen before the Rittenhouse suits can really get established, because if that company dissolves,
CNN can't take it.
CNN, like, oh, sorry, CNN gone. No more CNN, everybody. For no more being of the CNN, you cannot sue something that does not exist, And and so, there's probably a board of directors that maybe could get sued, but no, seriously, you guys, I think that you watch if If it doesn't happen right before, I will be shocked. And I think the Bloomberg network is going to just explode. It's going to explode. You watch it. I don't know. You heard it here first, folks. That's
Time to
my
get
prediction.
local. That's the deal. It's time to get local. It's time to plug in with your local communities, and it's not on Facebook.
Right.
Plug in with your local communities and figure out how to, love your neighbors and start to understand who they are and who to get along with, and quite honestly, which ones you need to be paying attention to when stuff goes sour, and who needs to be eliminated from their ability to continue to harm people.
Yeah. Exactly right. Exactly
Some
right.
people are actually responsible for what's happening. Wouldn't it be a shocker if we actually held them responsible?
Right.
Be interesting.
Right.
We have an
So,
opportunity to save the world right now.
do
Just
tell.
saying. I can't be the first one to throw.
Dude,
I'm with
did you
you.
watch? I know you're not as big a fan of Johnny B as I am. But did you happen to watch Spicy Friday this afternoon?
I don't know.
So he put up a nasty comment. You know how sometimes he'll put those like unkind comments. You know, and this guy's like, I listen to you 2A people all the time, and I don't see any of you going down in a blaze of glory. You know, and he's like, you first, Todd. You first. It was great.
Yeah.
I like it. I can't be the
Yeah.
only one.
A whole lot of veterans sitting around a full kit saying, "Are we lighting this thing off or what?"
Right? That's right.
Might want to be with the crowd that's done it before. Just saying. All right. Hey, book 5 was good.
Book 5 was good. It was really, really good. It's really, really good. Are we going to try to do this tonight? Are we going to talk about book 5?
You tell me.
Yeah, we can
I
touch
got to
it.
do a funeral
Let's
tomorrow.
wrap up
So you tell me.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. I didn't know you were doing a funeral tomorrow. No, we could. I think. I mean, man, we've been on for well over 2 hours at this point. So, if we wanted to,
Let's, here's the deal. We're going to drone for just a little bit, but it's going to be in the Patreon bunker. We're
there
going to
you
go
go.
live in there.
Gonna go live in the
We
bunker.
do owe it to our patrons to give them
To at
some
least
content
attempt.
that's exclusive. So you do have an opportunity. You can make it happen really quick. It doesn't require us to accept you or anything. Find your way over to, oh gosh, how do you find us? So Patreon is difficult to find us because we talk about guns. We're in the same filter as pornography, because guns are super scary, and so you have to actually dial our website, our Patreon page directly,
Right.
which I think I can figure out how to get that link here. Not that I can post the link, but I can tell it to you. So, let's see here. Patreon. Wanting to take me to my other page on there, which I'm not actually accepting members for.
Which page?
My outdoor company.
Oh,
Every time I try to type it in, I can't find it either.
right.
Because the one that you'd think it would be is actually a paranormal podcast, which is funny. So there
I
is a
found that
link
the
in the
other day. I
Facebook
found that the
group.
other day. That was really funny.
There's a link in the Facebook group, but if you're not on Facebook like me, then it's hard to find.
Right.
If you Google Patreon prepped pastors, you can find us. If you
Oh,
want to try
Google.
to
You
go
can.
straight there, Google will find us.
Oh, okay.
The Prepped Pastors Podcast. And our Patreon link is patreon.com/the real TPPP. And so if you
Got it.
go there, it immediately says you must be 18 plus to view this content. They act again like it's pornography because we show guns and knives and things like that in there. We don't. The only porn we have is gun porn. So You say, yes, I'm 18. And then immediately it takes you to join, become a patron of the Prep Pastors podcast. We only have one level right now. Everybody gets the same amount from us. It's
Thank you, Marsh.
$2.95 a month. You get an entire month. You get the rest until the first to view everything that we have for patrons for free. If you cancel after or before the first, you will not be charged, and you still got all the content. So it's kind of a try before you buy thing. You're welcome to do it. If you do get charged the $2.95 and you want your money back, talk to us. We'll probably give you your money back. If I've already sent you stickers, I might not. But you have to go in and you have to join, because that's the only way you're going to get into the bunker right now.
What if
So.
I haven't got any stickers and I have joined? Like what if
I showed them to you? It's basically the same thing. You're pretty much a sticker holder.
basically the multi-pass. Lilo Dallas multi-pass.
All right. Yeah, we are going to wrap here.
so
sorry, Facebook users. Facebook hates us just like they hate America.
Right.
And so that's why they're doing what they're doing.
If you have
I did
trouble,
go back and check out the YouTube. It worked fine. It was live fine. It was working fine.
It was way delayed
in there. Yeah, it had a long delay, but
it was
that's
working.
Okay. But it was working and the sound was good. And the playback was flawless. So I don't know, maybe get off of Facebook. So, and then hopefully starting next week, we will also be live for patrons during the normal show as well. We'll live the whole thing. We have to, like we say, we have to bounce around a couple of stream keys, but I think we're going to probably be able to make that happen. We're looking into Gitter. We have a presence on Gitter, Gab, what are the other, Parlor, MeWe, Wimkin. But we're probably not going to go live. We're looking into Gitter. That's a possibility. They seem to support live streaming pretty well. So,
yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Book 5 next week, maybe.
Book 5 next week, maybe, or maybe we'll wrap book 5 up in the bunker. I don't know. And I think next week, well, just depending on what happens with World Report, right? Like, I mean, right now I get that we're kind of not focusing on the books because we're focusing on the fact that things have kind of gone to heck.
Some things you need to do right now if you haven't done them. Some rice and beans and
buy food,
and
buy
cash.
food, buy silver, buy food, those things. Yeah.
Right. So I don't know about you, but it cost me $200 to put diesel in my pickup. I need to have enough $200 fill-ups, right, to get to do what I need to do. So that's the thing. All the stores are going to be taking cash for a while still. People in the bunker, they get the discussion of how to make those sorts of purchases when cash is no longer accepted. We actually talk about some of the methods of how to do that legally. We're not talking about the stealing methods. That's the super secret bunker.
Super secret bunker.
It's really easy. I'll give you a hint. Look for a Biden sign. I think that's it.
Okay. All right, guys. We love you, and get prepped.